Hello, everybody. I welcome all 253 subscribers. I can't believe you guys subscribe to this channel. I just want to keep pumping out good content, and thank you for the love and the support, especially for the last couple of videos. But honestly, even for the smaller videos that don't get as many views, I'm still proud of them. I'm still happy of them. And what I love is to just talk about music that you may or may not know of, specifically, of course, in the indie field. This is the mainstream indie music channel, and I'm so happy that you're here, whether you are one of those subscribers or whether you are new. Now, this week, we are talking about, I would say, one of the indie pioneers in the EDM field. You more than likely have listened to a song off of one specific album, which we're going to spend some time. But we're also going to talk about what M83 has been up to ever since the release of their hit album, Hurry Up, We're Dreaming. Now, M83 is really the brainchild of one person specifically, even though they kind of started off as a duo. But the story begins, as many of them do. You have one member, Anthony Gonzalez, and you have another member, Nicholas, and I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. He's French, and my French is terrible, so I'm not going to do that. Anthony Gonzalez was born in France and took up interest in music after getting injured in sports, and at the age of 17 recorded a demo. And the following kind of albums since that initial kind of debut project that he did, which is a self-titled debut album in spring of 2001. A lot of their story follows the same pattern of many bands that I have on this channel. They were making music while they were in college, still didn't know if they wanted to pursue it or not. Now, the name M83 comes from the galaxy of that name. It's one of the closest galaxies to us, and that's where they got the name from. In 2006, they released an album called Digital Shades Volume 1. They were touring at the time. They got some support from a label. And their first label was Mute Records, where they re-released their second album. And what's really cool is around that time, they remixed a version of another band that we talked about on this channel, Block Party. They remixed the song The Pioneers, which is an amazing song. And I remember listening to this remix. It was an awesome, awesome remix. At the time, EDM was making some waves, but it was still a little bit underground. And really, M83, how they exploded in popularity was pretty much a perfect storm. They continued touring. They got some support from some major bands. They supported the Kings of Leon in December of 2008. And then following that, they supported the Killers and Depeche Mode as well when they went into Europe. And really, I would like to think at least those three bands mixed with what Gonzalez did next really kind of secured, Anthony Gonzalez, that is, really secured what led up to Hurry Up, We're Dreaming. So number one, like I said, it was who they were touring with. The Killers, a little Kings of Leon, and Depeche Mode. You can hear those two bands, a little bit of the three bands, but those two bands specifically really, I think, sticks out in Hurry Up, We're Dreaming. And number two, what led up to it was Anthony Gonzalez moved from France to the United States. He moved to Los Angeles. And he kind of stuck to himself. You know, he didn't really get into the party scene. He would take really long road trips into the Joshua Tree National Park and kind of just sit out there and write and think. You know, and number three, he was turning 30 years old at the time. As you have to remember, 2001 was right when he was around the, he had just left high school and was entering college. And all the years in between, touring, making albums, kind of led up to that moment. And like I said, he didn't stick into the party scene out there in California. He really enjoyed getting out to himself, taking road trips in nature. So we're talking, almost a full decade now they had been a band. And he wanted something epic. He wanted something different for this album. And really that momentum of working with such creative artists really helped push him. Hurry Up, We're Dreaming was a double album, and it was their 6th studio album. By Naive Records in France was the label there, and the United States had that Mute Records made it again. And I mean, what can you say about this album? It is a masterpiece in the indie field. You have Midnight City, which definitely one day we are going to cover as a solo song, because we got to cover that song. Reunion was another single, but many people know the single Outro was a huge one off this album, and it did big. It was nominated for Best Alternative Music Album at the Grammys, and I mean, nowadays it is just huge. It definitely had a cult following now, and so many people know about this album. Midnight City in particular was absolutely huge. They started to get noticed specifically from the movie industry, where he was tasked with making an entire soundtrack for the movie Oblivion, which is a sci-fi film with Tom Cruise. A lot of their singles were used in television shows and in movies as well. And because of the massive success of that album, Wake Up We're Dreaming, he decided to re-release, or at least him and his label Mute Records, their first 3 albums produced by the band. Their 7th studio album was called Junk and was released in 2016. They toured of that as well. In 2019, Digital Shades Volume 2, or DSV2, was released in September of 2019. And 10 years later, in December 2021, Gonzalez decided to re-release Hurry Up, We're Dreaming for its 10th anniversary. It's pretty awesome. And in 2023, they released a new single accompanied by their 9th studio album, Fantasy, which was released in March 2023. They have made, 9 albums as a band, and, they have won some small awards, but pretty much, to wrap it up, M83, I like to think, sticks into that group of indie bands where, yes, they had a massive hit. They Hurry Up, We're Dreaming, Midnight City, Outro was so huge back then and caught the attention of so many people. And what I like to think that is M83 found a huge audience based off of that and developed a huge audience along with their busy tour schedule, that honestly I think nowadays they're okay with just doing what they love. I don't think they're going to go for another huge Wake Up We're Dreaming album. I think it's pretty much they got their audience, they got their hits, they probably got a massive amount of financial support from that album alone, that nowadays they're okay with just touring for their fans. They have enough of them, especially in the United States and Europe, that I feel like he can just keep going as long as he wants to, and he's set. Like I said, he made a soundtrack for an entire movie, which, that was a pretty big movie, Oblivion. Like I said, I don't know if he's going to endeavor to make another huge album. From the likes of it, it seems like he's okay with just releasing with what he's comfortable with. And it seems like the fans are happy with that. So, thank you for listening to this really episode about M83, the history especially behind their massive album and what they've done since. And I will talk to y'all next week. Bye.